Hello composers, Mike here with another Logic Pro X video tutorial for you. And today I'm gonna show you a feature that will help you fix the timing of your MIDI recordings. So let me start by explaining and showing the problem first, after I have taken a sip of coffee. Yeah, that's what I need. Alright, so here we go. When you record any new part into your music composition, most often you will not get the perfect timing, but if you are decent on the piano and keyboard, you will most likely either rush the tempo or drag the tempo, meaning playing slightly ahead of the beat for a certain portion of the recording and slightly after the grid for another section in the recording. It's not likely that you, unless you're really crappy with the timing, performing some notes really before the beat and all of a sudden really after the beat. If you do, then you really need to work on your timing, practicing playing to a metronome. So if you play something like this, or whatever, let's say the first chord, here you are fairly on the beat, then perhaps you're starting to rush. I personally mainly rush when I'm recording. Some musicians are dragging more often, but I tend to be a bit rushed when recording. So let me show you this, what it means in practice. So I've recorded a portion here, which is this. Right, so it's not a bad recording, super bad. Well, I actually had to de-align some of the notes to make it even less on time, because when I tried to record this video, for some reason I just played almost too perfect in timing, which is not usually the case. However, when we look at this in the piano roll editor, you will see that, first of all, I almost always start the first note in a new recording slightly before the beat. So just to make it easier, I usually just quantize the first notes of a new part like this every time before, because if let's say this region, if I have a beat starting before or a note here, a MIDI note, that will not actually play if I start the playing from the part here. So let's get back to this. Now, let me show you what I mean by rushing and dragging. So if I just hover the player head here, you can see that if we actually zoom in here, you can see that in the beginning here, I actually start by rushing. You can see I play slightly before here. And one way you can solve this, obviously, is by quantizing, but I don't really like quantizing too much, so because I want to have that human feeling still available in the performance. So another thing you can do is simply mark a note that is misaligned, hold down the Option key on your keyboard and press the arrow right or left to push it manually like this. You can see it actually moves there. And you can set the value it moves by, let's see, where's the secondary toolbar? Here, nudge value. So you need to have the nudge value available here in the secondary toolbar. I always have it at 10 ticks, so I can not really use the secondary toolbar. So getting back here, that is one way you can actually select several notes, like these two, hold down Option, right click. Now those are more to the grid. But let's go back and I will show you the new way. I actually just found out about this. I've never tried it before, but it makes so much sense because we as musicians either drag a bit in the performance or rush a bit, and it's usually changing over a recording. So here you can see I rush in the beginning. Let's see, here I rush as well. But if you check here in the later part of the performance, I actually drag here. It's slightly after the grid. So, solution, time handles. Here you will find it in Functions, Activate Time Handles. And now, let's compare. If I just select something before, it's working as usual. But with the time handles function activated, If I now select from here, let's say here, you can see now I have all those notes that I want to adjust inside the time handles marker. If I now drag this, you can see the time stretch icon here. If I drag this to the right, it will start to move these notes slightly to the right, and it will move them more here than here. So if I drag this now, the first note here will move more. This moved as well, but not as much, since it was on the other side of the time handle. If I do the opposite, if I drag on this end, it will move the notes more on this end, which is really a great way to solve the dragging and rushing thing. So now I can see I can move these notes like so. This one I'm probably gonna manually adjust because they were independently of the beat, and these two as well. But here I have a section where I drag once again. Let's see, it starts all the way from, well, here basically to that note. So to the right, like so. And you might need to do it in several passes like this. And here in the end we have from here to here is actually dragging. So let's do it like so. I accidentally marked that note like so, and you can see everything moves, but it stretches more to over on this end, since that is on the left part of the time handle. So you will need to perhaps do some pauses like this. But it's much faster still, in my opinion, than simply doing this and doing the arrow keys thing, which also moves everything equally, which is not usually the case with the timing differences in rushing and dragging when recording. All right, so I think we have something. Whoops. It's working pretty good. If you have an outlier, you can simply still use the arrow keys like so. Let's just check how this sounds now. Right, and obviously since this is a fast string patch, sometimes you need to actually manually align the track to start slightly before the grid. So this is a bonus tip which I use especially when you need to add some adjust the attack basically of the instrument. So let's say you do like that, and it feels more on the beat. And this is different, by the way, the value you need to adjust for every sample library. All right, so next I recorded this. Let's try out the same thing here. You can see the full performance. So obviously, of course, you can go ahead. If it's like very close to the grid, I would suggest you simply do like a smart quantize going into the region inspector. Smart quantize, select all, and do like, let's say 50%, 60% or whatever. Rhythmic things I usually do more quantization on. So let's say 80. But let's not do that now. Let's remove the quantization so we can go in here and check. Zoom in. You see what I'm talking about? I'm rushing a bit here. So let's see, the time handles is on. Rushing a bit all the way to there. So let's use the time handles, whoops, like so. And this note I have to adjust manually. Actually, I did some mistakes here. So let's go further. Here I'm dragging with these notes. So if it's super off the grid, you obviously can still manually adjust it like this. But I find that using a combination of these techniques, the time handles, the option left, right, and actually holding down and simply dragging the notes. But the cool thing with time handles is that it applies like different kinds of movement in the grid in the different range you have here. So let's say you mark a super big range. If you, for example, let's say you are starting to drag more and more, then you can use this technique and simply use this and pull it backwards so that it applies more. Alignment shifts here in the end. So you simply go through all your MIDI data with this. I can show it here on this little piano track as well, which is shorter, so it's easy to see. Let's see. Right, so I'm dragging here, dragging all the way from, let's say, this note. Can I do this? No, I cannot. So I need to do like so, and then drag it back like so. Let's see if I can actually line this. So this is cool, as you can see. I started by dragging, so these were more aligned to the grid. And then I see that this is still not aligned, so I can drag that back as well. And this part of it to the left doesn't change as much. So this is how we can still remain fairly human in the feel by doing these changes in a combination. So you can see here I'm starting to rush again on these notes, except this one. So it's not perfect because this one will now be dragged as well. Let's see, so I'm dragging more to the right here. Oh, rushing, I'm sorry. Like so. This is now not good. And then I'm starting to rush here and then go back to dragging. So you see, this is to dragging. When you get used to this, it can actually be a good technique. As you see, you also use, like, you can use it to stretch notes or reduce them. So I'm not even sure you're supposed to use it the way I show, but I found it really pretty cool to actually have that human feel remaining when adjusting like the timing of the performance, as you can see. And also, I don't mind it actually changing the length a bit, because that will add some human feel as well. Let's see how this sounds now. Nice! You see, it's not super perfectly quantized, but it sounded really on beat right now after these changes.
Check out my complete video series on Logic Pro X tutorials and tips here on my channel. Learn and master Logic Pro X to boost your music composition and production workflow.